Greetings, brothers and sisters. So, big spiritual gathering going on for our gratefulness meditation, those of us who are doing it. Today's July 23rd. We're meditating 2 times a day for 3 days, so 6 meditations. And all the information is on my Gratefullness meditation channel. So I did a really long video yesterday about the censorship hearings. It's like 3 hours long. I'm going to release a Journey series video tomorrow. So I'm not going to spend much time. In fact, my voice is a little bit, anyway, so I'm just going to, I talked too much yesterday. But I have to get to the Jamie Foxx thing. And then there's another little kid giving a sort of revelation at Jojo Bagoo. Then there's a biblical quote I want to get to. And then there's going to be this a narrative I have. And I think it's pretty epic. I had a kind of epiphany when I was meditating this morning or afterwards about all the stuff I've been talking about the truth community. Not so much about the sound of freedom, but the dynamics within its truth community. And so I want to get to that because I don't think it's ever been said before, certainly not by me. Not in this way. And so let's get to the Jamie Foxx thing, and then we'll do the other 2 things here. Okay, another Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies.
They're dropping like flies.
Listen, people are dropping like flies out there.
I am
Boop.
pissed off.
We're dropping like flies around here.
We're dropping like flies here. Jeez, sir, 2 more just went down. Dropping like flies.
Too many people around here been dropping like flies already, and where's that getting us, huh? Nowhere. Fast.
Biden's being Biden's being an extremist.
Crush that fly.
I am Jamie Foxx. Check mark. Thank you a billion to everyone. Thank you a billion to everybody. Been a long road, but all the prayers and great people and God got me through. A couple of prayer hands and a smiley face. Jamie does not look good here. He's lost some weight, obviously. But let's let him say what he's got to say here.
Say thank you to everybody that's prayed, man, and sent me messages. I cannot even begin to tell you how far it took me and how it brought me back. I went through something that I thought I would never ever go through. And I know a lot of people were waiting, or wanting to hear updates, but to be honest with you, I just didn't want you to see me like that, man. I want you to see me laughing, having a good time, partying, cracking a joke, doing a movie, television show. I didn't want you to see me with tubes running out of me and trying to figure out if I was gonna make it through. And to be honest with you,
The only thing I care about is whether it was, in terms of I don't wish him, harm or anything. I don't have anything against Jamie Foxx. I think he's entertained me in some movies or whatever it is, right? So I don't have anything against him personally. He looks, his face is different. And he's not a clone, that's him. I've talked about the cloning thing, and people don't understand cloning. There's this idea out there that you can clone somebody, you can accelerate their aging, so you can clone them where they'll get to whatever Jamie Foxx's age, 50 years old, in a month or so. And then the clone will wake up, and then they'll stop aging and then age naturally from there on out. They don't have that technology. If they do, then we're so screwed you don't even, that's way beyond the technology they have, right? The technology we know that they have is that they take some cells from a host. It could be any kind of mammal. They've cloned horses, sheep, rhesus monkeys, dogs. Pretty much everything. They won't say they've done humans, but they have. And the process is always the same. They take some cells and they're able to divide the cells without a sperm and an egg and create an embryo. And then they insert that embryo in a female of that species, and it, goes through a birthing process, and they could have an artificial womb, and there's that. But in terms of accelerated growth, there's no evidence they have anything close to that. But let's say they did. Jamie Foxx would wake up at age 50, and they don't have the ability to program his memories, and not even just that. If you're, if you were to wake up at 50 as a clone, you haven't done anything in life. You haven't learned to walk, crawl. You haven't learned to talk. You haven't learned to control your bowels and your bladder and things. You haven't, learned to potty train. I mean, you wake up at like a newborn baby completely without any language, anything. And, they can't, let's say they could program your brain like some sort of uploading memories and things. Let's say they had that technology, which they don't. But let's say they had that. They can't do that to your body. Like your body, let's say you go into a coma, you have to relearn to walk. And it's only even just for a few months. I was in a cast, and I twisted my ankle and I sprained ligament. And when they took off the cast, my left leg was half the size of my right leg. And so, this is what you guys know this stuff. And so that's all stupid, right? Like, stop with the stupidity. He's going to get into the clone part here. Like, people saying he was clone. Of course, he's in that movie Clone Tyrone. But that's just, this is the kind of thing I'm going to get to at the end of this video.
My sister Deidre Dixon, my daughter Corinne Marie saved my life. So to them, to God, to a lot of great medical people, I'm able to leave you this video. I cannot tell you how great it feels to have your family kick in such a way. And y'all know they kept it airtight. They didn't let nothing out. They protected me. And that's what I hope that everyone could have in moments like these. Now, by being quiet, sometimes things, get out of hand. People saying what I got. Some people said I was blind, but as you can see, the eyes are working. The eyes are working just fine.
That's more proof that that's him, right? Because he was always able to move. He can move his eyes independently. He can move one eye one way and one eye another. Like, that's, a gift. And we've seen him do that in sketches and stuff. I mean, we just saw him do that, right? You can say his clone also has that gift, but, shouldn't say that out loud, right? I could see it right off the bat that he could see. And the story was this, that he took the boop, the rooster, and after that, he went paralyzed. He was paralyzed and he was blind. And this was a Hollywood reporter, a gossip columnist, was told this by one of Jamie Foxx's insiders. And the evidence to support this was he went to a medical institution that specializes in paralysis and other things closely related to that. He's later going to say he's got his legs under him. So maybe he says he's not paralyzed. We'll get into that. But right now, it seems like he's not any of these things. He's certainly not blind. So the validity of that story, it loses some of its validity, right? And so let's let him finish up here.
He said I was paralyzed. I'm not paralyzed. But I did go through, I went to hell and back. And my road to recovery had some potholes as well. But I'm coming back. And I'm able to work, so I want to thank the people that let me work, and I just want to say that I love everybody, and I love all of the love that I got. And man, I know they talk about people crying on videos. You could do take two, but I'm not gonna do a take two. It is what it is, and if you see me out. From now on and every once in a while I just burst into tears is because it's been tough, man. I was sick, man, but now I got my legs under me, so you're gonna see me out. But like I said, I just want you to remember me for the jokes that I crack, the movies that I make. Some of them good, some of them ain't. I think I got a good one out. And the songs that I sing, man. And then, you know, somebody was talking about I'm clone. Well, check this out. Just kidding you. Not clone, man, but I'm here on earth because of some great people. I'm here on earth because of God, man. So I love all y'all. I just wanted to jump on here and let you know that I'm on my way back in love.
Jamie Foxx doesn't owe me or anybody else anything, right? I'm a private person, and, you know, when you're sick like this and your loved ones around you, you know, fans and haters and whatever else people are out there who are interested in you, even in your community. You know, so what happened to that guy just out of morbid curiosity or whatever. You're not owed an explanation, right? If somebody's sick or hurt or whatever. The only thing about Jamie Foxx is if there's any validity to that story where he got the whoop, right, and that caused him this issue. They said there was blood clots and some other stuff that went on there. If that happened, and he knows about it, and the people around him know about it, they know this for sure, that, like, you know, and he'll know, like, you know, if you get something and you immediately melt down afterwards, you know it's that, right? And so if he knows that this happened and he could prevent other people from suffering this, you know, he was relatively healthy going into this, in shape, right? And now, you know, he's 50s, but not, you know, that's old, but not, you know, elderly, right? Still, you can be relatively fit and healthy. And if that's what did this to him, it's his duty to say something. Otherwise, it's none of our business. He wants to, you know, recover in privacy and, you know, not show people. I mean, who wants to, people look at them when they're laying in bed with tubes coming out? I mean, the last thing you care about is your audience and people, you know, whatever. But you got to put your energy into healing, right? If you get lung cancer because of cigarette smoking and you're a famous person and, like, you have a certain demographic that you know, you like African American in his case, and let's say there is a predisposition towards something, it's his duty to warn people about something that caused this. If it's any story, if there's any validity to that story of the bloop, right? Other than that, you know, who cares? Like, this is between him and, you know, it's just something he went through, right? He doesn't owe us something. But he does owe people, if he can prevent, you know, some kind of, I mean, a warning, that's just being a good human being. You know, the same thing with Damar Hamlin. If there was something that he took that caused his situation, it's his duty and the medical community and the team's duty to let everyone know. Otherwise, it's a cover-up. This is a cover-up. And so I don't know if it's true or not. We know that some of the story is obviously not true. He might have went blind temporarily, but, you know, he's definitely not blind now. And he certainly doesn't look paralyzed. Maybe he is, you know, whatever. But he did say, getting my legs under me, whatever that means. But again, none of that stuff's our business, only if there's a cause, a controversial cause, and he could say something about it. That's the only thing he owes any of us, and he owes all of us that, right? As a celebrity, as a person with a voice, you owe people that. Celebrities and other people warn people off all the time. They say, yeah, I did this thing, it's horrible for me. Oh, you know, old drug addicts, alcoholics, people who have ruined their lives with something has ruined their lives, and they said, yeah, don't do this. People have had disastrous plastic surgery. Yeah, this is what happened to me, right? You know, you owe that to other people, right? You know, in a sense, you're being experimented on, and if the experiment goes horribly wrong, then you owe it to warn other people off and tell them, hey, don't take this thing, right? You know, let's say you were in a village and somebody, you eat a berry or something, and, you know, new berry that no one's seen before, and you get violently sick, and everyone's like, what's wrong with you? And you're like, it's my privacy, right? I'm not going to tell you. And some kids find the berries, they all eat it, and they die, and you were selfish for not saying what the issue was, right? That's, you know, It's just basic common courtesy that you do this. And it's your duty to warn other people off from these, from something that's poisonous. Okay, so YouTube recommended this to me from the Hill this morning, and they have a clip featuring the not funny Hassan Minhaj, who was a very liberal Daily Show comedian.
Too old to be president. Let's hear what one of them had to say.
How old is too old to be president?
Too old to be president is an age where you're scared that you might not live to see the next day because a country is depending on you to run them. Also, as long as you don't have any mental health problems, like say you have dementia and you're sort of losing your memory a little bit, and people with dementia, they're perfectly good people, but they're probably not the best kind of person to run a country because they might not remember everything.
Yeah, you're eerily describing what Joseph R. Biden is going through right now.
Okay, so this is a very liberal comedian, somebody who's made, I think, a lot of Trump jokes and right-wing people jokes, but he's saying what everyone kind of knows is Joe Biden's too old, which raises a whole bunch of things. I also want you to remember this kid is smart. How sharp this girl is compared to, say, someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm going to make that comparison later. So when I talk about the truth community. And so remember all that. And so my wife saw this meme and sent it to me. The king of foreskins, for his daughter's hand in marriage, King Saul wanted no less than 100 Philistine foreskins. David, really wanting to become a son-in-law to the powerful king, took his men and killed 100 Philistines to bring back 200 foreskins. That's the kind of guy David is. You asked for 100 foreskins, that M&F was bringing back 200. David counted them all in front of the king. As promised, he was awarded the princess. So this was from Samuel 8:25 through 2:7. And I looked at the Bible Hub, and Bible Hub, all these Bibles only have from 8:1 to 8:22. So they've omitted this, they've edited this out. But this is what this is this one Bible has it in it. This is the Bible Hub, which is whenever I look up anything on the Bible, I go to the Bible Hub. But they didn't have that in there, any of these ones that I looked at here. They just don't carry it. It's been edited out, right? But this Bible hasn't edited out. And it says, Saul replied, say to David, the king wants no other price for the bride than 100 Philistine foreskins to take revenge on his enemies. Saul's plan was to have David fall to the Philistines. When the attendants told David these things, he was pleased to become the king's son-in-law. So before the allotted time elapsed, David took his men with him and went out and killed 200 Philistines and brought back their foreskins. They counted out full number to the king so David might become the king's son-in-law. Then Saul gave him his daughter Michal in marriage. So that happened. And here it is again, another version of the Bible here. So if you look this up, it's there. Some of the versions of David have it, some of them don't. Here's Bible Hub that actually has it. So I guess they have 27. But he doesn't have the previous one. I guess it could have 25. Let me see. Here it is. Okay, maybe I was just looking wrong. So some of these versions have it and some of them don't. But, they were into foreskins. They like to kill their enemies and take their foreskins because they like to touch the genitals of their dead enemies and do a delicate surgery on them when they're dead. This is how weird it is, right? How creepy it is. So I'm going to get into all this in a voiceover in a second here. Let me just wrap this up. There's one more thing here. Unrelated. The other things are related, but this one. If irritable bowel syndrome had a face, My wife sent me this morning. I covered her in my video yesterday about the hearings. It's pretty savage, and she's just, she's just a wretch, right? And then my wife, after I had sent this, sent me a bunch of stuff Kennedy found where she spread anti-Semitic rumors about Bernie Sanders. You can look that up. I didn't get a chance to put that in that video, but another case where I was talking about Bernie Sanders and her, I didn't know that, but I knew that she was the DNC head, and she screwed Bernie Sanders, and then they fired her. She was disgraced. And Bernie Sanders found out she was spreading anti-Semitic rumors and things about him being Jewish, and she's Jewish, to undermine his candidacy. That's how slimy she is. And then she accused RFK of being anti-Semitic and called him disgusting. So that's just a little follow-up to my video on my other channel. But let's get into narrative here. So I'm going to revisit all the things I just covered, but I want to make this clear because it isn't really about the sound of freedom. It isn't about, the movie or whether you enjoy it or not, none of those things. Like, why do I care and other people care in the truth community about this movie? And you're saying that it's going to change and fight against child trafficking. Like, there's a reaction there, and you guys don't understand our reaction. So I want to say this to you. I want to explain this to you. The truth community has always been sloppy. It's for a number of reasons, right? The first reason is we don't have editors in journalistic training. And many of us don't have ethics or even consciousness. There's a lot of dumbass people who did poorly in school, who are uneducated. And, you can be smart and uneducated. There's plenty of people who have just good common sense and, farmers. Being a farmer, you're pretty evolved if you're, and I don't mean industrialized farmer. I mean someone who's like a homesteader and you're doing multitasking, various things. You're more evolved. I learned that when I started a homestead, that you have to have a lot more skills and you got to be pretty sharp to be a farmer. And you might not be, book learning, but, you're going to be smart in your own way. And the old time farmers would have never fallen for all this stuff, right? They could see through people, village-based people, tribal people. They could see through deception, manipulation. Some of them were more simple and innocent, but it wasn't because they were stupid. It was because they didn't understand how evil city folk could be, right? Or the natives peoples couldn't understand how evil European, military and, people coming from these royal families could be, right? But getting back to the central point, that there was, a lack of discipline, a lack of education, a lack of responsibility, ethics, a lot of emotion, and no governing body. No, there's no rule of law in terms of journalistic integrity in the truth community. And that meant people could just come in and be free and loose, like they're Cliff Clavin sitting on a bar stool and tell you what was going on in the world. And there was some advantages to that. There was some freedom that people in the journalistic community and you could speak truth to power because these big time newspapers and media companies are all connected to financial institutions and political parties and so forth. And so there's a truth that you can't tell in the mainstream media. They won't allow you to do so. We've seen that. There's censorship. And so there were some advantages to what was going on in social media. But there was a lot of BS stuff, low consciousness stuff, a lot of lies, a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and just, things that weren't true. And people sensationalized things, made them more graphic, exaggerated things, tried to make them more sexy, or whatever you want to call it, clickbaity, so that they can make money, get views, whatever it might be. And we all had participated in that one level or another. And you ended up having to do that to compete with other people who were doing that, right? It's like cheating, like steroids. If, a lot of people are using steroids, if 10% of the athletes are using steroids, they have such an unfair advantage, then everyone has to use them. This happened in the Tour de France where, people were getting away with cheating, Lance Armstrong and some of these other people. And the only way to beat them was to cheat, right? The only way to win was to cheat, because you couldn't beat somebody who was on steroids, who was cheating or whatever it was, using performance-enhancing drugs and so forth. And so that caused the truth community to get a little crazy. And then we had the Qbies, right? We had the Q movement. And at first, it didn't seem like it was going to be a big deal, but then it took off. And early on, when I first found out what it is, I said, oh, this thing's going to be really bad. Now, the people in the Q movement believed in some of the things that we all believed in, many of the things we all believed in, and they were similar. So the Q people don't understand how they became a cancer, a poison to the truth community. And that's where the anger towards you and the frustration with you and people people who are adjacent, who are Q-like, who are similar in their point of view and their behavior. So let me break this down for you so you guys all understand what happened. And I haven't thought about it this way. But you were turned into a cancerous, like a virus or something, that would spread around the truth community and then contaminate the whole thing. And the truth community isn't a community. It's just people who are interested in other explanations, either telling the explanations, finding the explanations for themselves, the narratives for themselves, or people who are interested in hearing other people's opinions about what's going on in the world. And if you call that a community, well, yeah, I guess that is. I guess in a very light definition of community. It certainly really isn't a movement. There's no budget. People don't get along. We don't have a set of goals. We don't have an organization. We don't have a yearly meeting and these things, right? To where we could come together and lobby and plan our strategy and work together collectively to establish goals and accomplish those goals. There's none of that, right? It's just people who are interested in, who know that they're being lied to and are interested in hearing other explanations. And so the Q people are like, well, why are we so much worse than the rest of you? It's because, to start off with, number one, and there's going to be, I think, 3 at least, major points here. The first thing is that you got worked by an intelligence entity, one of the intelligence one of these three-letter agencies that you claim to hate, that you patriots claim to be against. You got completely worked by whatever Q is, which the entity that is Q was a governmental operation, a spy operation. If you don't see that now, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say, right? But that's what happened. People got worked by a 3-letter agency. And here's the way that we know for sure that happened. This is the first of many letters of how we can tell that Q is a governmental operation. They have never looked for Q or found Q or even tried to find Q. Why is that, right? They look at Q as being a cult. They look at the QAnons being a cult, right? The Qbies. And so if it's a cult, they always go after the leader. In the history of cults, they always go after the leader unless the leader is one of their guys, right? If one of their assets. Other than that, they always go after the leader. If a dictator is, causing problems in the world, they always, they cut the head off the body and they assassinate the dictator. So if you're a true enemy, look at the way they're going after Kennedy, right? And the way that they kind of pretend to go after Trump but never get him. They could throw Trump in jail anytime they want. But Trump is either knowingly or unknowingly an asset for the intelligence community and the left. You can see that because they're constantly sticking a microphone in front of him and using his words and his actions to justify everything that they're doing. Trump is the center of their universe. Like Trump is the demigod of or the demon in the liberal dogma. And so with Q, they've never gone after it. They never talk about going after him or trying to find him or any of these things, right? And so that's quite substantial, right? Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they be getting the guy instead of, they've gone after his followers, they've gone after all of you, but they're not, looking for Q himself. The second thing is they're always talking about you, the Qbies. They're always talking about Qbies. Whenever there's they're talking about disinformation and the threat of domestic terrorism and the big event that happened in January, they're always talking about Qbies and have been for quite some time. So that means they understand that when they talk about you, it's a winning issue for them. In politics and in the media, they know what's winning for them, what wins them viewers, what they win on. Right? When Jojo Magoo was anti-police and Trump was pro-police, there was a difference there because the majority of people were pro-police and they were scared about Biden's position, so Biden had to change his position. Right? There's winning issues, right? The stuff that they're attacking RFK on are things that they know that people are scared of. And his anti-boop, that thing is not good for his, in terms of so many people are pro-medicine, pro these things, right? And so if they're talking about you, Qbies, they know that you suck, right? They know that you're a winning asset for them. They know that you're something that represents the profile they're trying to create to shut down and disenfranchise and deplatform everybody on the internet. So that's the second way that that's number B. That's letter B. Letter C is that Q got nothing right. Right? that there was these things, promises made, things made, and you guys always had confidence, even though Q had moved the goalposts and had been wrong so many times. You guys still followed it. It was this occult-like situation, right? And with all this deplatforming going on, they never found a way to deplatform Q or go after Q or shut Q down, right? So that's, why not go to the source? They always go to the source. So that's just another reason. That's number D. So that's letter D. So let's go to number 2. So number 1, and this was, the numbers are about why Qbies are so much worse than other truthers and other people in this system. So number 1 was you were an asset, and you became a contagion. You became a virus, a cancer that was there to destroy, disrupt, disharmonize, demonize, and deplatform the rest of us. You've been a burden on the rest of us. We've suffered you because you got worked by the, NSA or whatever, CIA or whatever combination of that ran the Q operation. You fell for a psychological operation. So number 2 is that you lost any perspective. You were worked up emotionally. Q worked you, this idea that you had your QB decoder rings you got out of a cereal box, and there's these Q drops, and hey, we need your help. You be a junior Q detective and help us find out. We'll give you some of the, this talking in abstracts and letting you wander around and figure out the puzzle pieces. And they had disinformations in the Q movement to, to make that, to lead you astray. They had Judas goats in the Q movement. And amongst some of your worst beliefs, this idea of the getting rid of your judicial rights. Now, this is a big part of the Constitution, and all these Qbies claim to be patriots, and yet they're pushing for renditioning people like Tom Hanks, whoever it might be, and violating their Miranda rights and their rights to due process, bringing them to Guantanamo Bay and having secret military tribunals, and throwing out our whole Constitution and everything that we have as rights as people that set us apart from some of these other countries and dictatorships and things. They wanted to throw all that out because that was the only way to get rid of these pedophiles, these pedos, right? That was the only way. And they were so emotionally desperate and they were so wound up. There was more to that too, because you were a complete drag to deal with, because everyone who wasn't with you was against you and was somehow a pedo collaborator in the way that you attacked all of us who said, be reasonable. Let's call this number 3, that you were so emotionally wound up and so stupid and so just, it was the worst kind of person to deal with. Like, we had built something. Some of us had been around for years doing this and were thoughtful and we had our issues. Like we all buy into things. We all get duped. We all put out information that turns out to be false, right? We all report things that, we believe to be true and later find out they're not. I mean, I went through a whole process with this myself. We're all going to get fooled. We're all get lied to. We all believe in things that turn out to be wrong. I mean, that's going to happen in life. Trust somebody that's untrustworthy. That's going to happen. I don't understand your whole thing, you Qbies. And yeah, I don't think there's any Qbies here listening, but I don't understand their whole thing. But I'm not a right-wing person. I grew up more of a Democrat and a liberal, and I threw that away because I knew that was goofy. And so I don't have a demographic I fit into. And so I'm not, being worked in that way, right? I don't have a group that I'm not being targeted because I don't have anything to target, right? I mean, if I was going to be deceived, it would have been by Kamlish and, Dodgy from Heartfulness. And, I went through the painful process of seeing that he became corrupted. He was once a good person and a spiritual person, and then he lost his way. And even though that was painful for me to accept, I accepted it because I don't have something. Like I'm open to, I understand I don't know everything, and, that there's going to be surprises and things that you thought, oh, that can't happen, and it's going to happen. I would have never believed that a master in the Sajmark system could be corrupted. That wasn't a possibility for me. But when I saw it happen, I knew it happened. Even though I had that prejudice or that belief that it couldn't, I had to, find a way to remove that belief because it wasn't true. That belief wasn't, it turned out not to be accurate. But anyways, the Qbies got so worked up emotionally, and they came in like they invented the truth community when they were just coming here, newbies, stupid, many double-digit IQ people. And it's not the IQ, it's the lack of consciousness. And you guys were, just fueling like a pack of, like a swarm of locusts, feeding off of each other, putting out disinformation, getting emotional, getting, just trying to mansplain everything to everybody. And it was very hard on the rest of us. You were immature and stupid, and you should have been listening, but you were talking. You should have been learning, but you were trying to teach. And you were just wrong about all these things. For example, like I was one of the first people to do something on Tom Hanks. And I reported on, or I made a video about the Jimmy Kimmel sketch. I've showed the clips from that before, where he, pretends to be a toddlers and tiaras type of dad or grandfather or something, whatever he is. And he's got this girl, his fake daughter, and it's very creepy and very sexual. And then I found other things like him dancing while he was dressed up as a woman for that show, Bosom Buddies, and he flashes his genitals in a very creepy way. Like he had a creepy side, very twisted person. But that was just what was, factual or things we could find on him. His wife had some, he had some stuff. They have some stuff. And the movie clips and some of the things he's been in and, all these things. And I put them together in a, methodical way with, some restraint and, not claiming things that weren't true. But at the same time, the Qbies were releasing just BS videos about Tom Hanks, things that were made up. Isaac Cappy came in and said Tom Hanks is a pedo, but provided no context and no information. And so there was all that, right? And, I remember putting out a video about Tom Hanks. I had all these Qbies show up and say, well, you're not going far enough. You must be a shill, getting emotional. Then when I made comment videos about him or whatever it was, they're attacking me, saying I'm a part of it, all these things, right? Anybody who disagreed with them. And, my video would get so many views, but a video that was full of lies and exaggerations and, would have way more energy in it. And people want to, people are gossipers and they like sensationalistic things. And so you can't compete against imagination, right? When you're, and so I could see the way they were driving the community, the truth community, or the content that was being produced into sensationalistic and over-the-top kind of BS. And I talked about it. I said, this is dangerous. It's a bad thing. It's going to destroy this community. And that was before the mainstream media started to use Qbies as a weapon, because they were waiting for that, right? When they, the right time, the Trump stuff, the the January stuff, all the rest of it, right? They were waiting for their, they were using this asset, creating this asset, and contaminating. It contaminated, it was like a virus. It contaminated every aspect of the truth community. You guys got into it and just, you infiltrated into the truth community, and you just, drove it in the wrong direction. You were a virus. You were cancer. You were, again, and just difficult and unpleasant to deal with, like the worst kind of people. There were other things. 4 could be, you wouldn't evolve, you wouldn't change, you wouldn't learn, you didn't ever confront reality, you weren't reality-based. Q didn't deliver, was wrong so many times, and you just moved the goalposts. That whole Great Pumpkin meme thing, I'm not going to show it here, but I've talked about it so much and showed it in the past. You just wouldn't change and learn and adapt and evolve. And you just became this, this consciousness, this egregore of stupidity and low consciousness. And you embarrassed all of us. And like now we're linked to you because whenever they talk about so-called conspiracy theorists, they talk about Qbies. And so, our community is linked to you. And you don't know how hard you've made it for us all. All the rules that YouTube has put in, these platforms are put in because of you, creating the profile that they wanted. You were worked and used by an intelligence community, right, to destroy the truth community. That's your purpose, to destroy the community and make it easy to censor and deplatform people. That's what the goal was. There's at least one of the goals here, and it's one that's so obvious now. And so there's a lot more here, but you were a complete drag and you hurt all of us. And because you fell for something. And like I said, we can all fall for something, but at some point you got to admit you were wrong. And then sit back and then try to, train yourself and work to becoming something more than you were, right? So you won't get fooled again. But then they come out with this movie, and you could see right away it's targeting you guys again. And you could say, well, I was never a Qbie. Well, you're just like a Qbie because you fell for this same kind of operation. Tim Ballard is a admitted NSA agent, right, working for national security. And so he's not a hero. The movie isn't going to help anybody. It's the same thing. It's just another one of these governmental operations to drive division, to hurt us in the truth community. And when we say this is what's happened and you guys fell for it before, you're being dicks about it. Again, just like you always are. And you suck. Like you just absolutely suck. And so that's why this, I've made videos about this and other people are talking about it because we suffered you guys before and you never frickin' learn, right? And you got that former Qbie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's just the epitome of a dumbass, right? I prefer Southern people. I prefer living in Republican communities. I'm from the North. I don't like northern places. Boston, New York, Chicago, big cities. Connecticut, where I grew up, I never go back there. These are places where I would never live, right? I've been around the South, Florida. I've lived in various southern states, Virginia. I've, traveled to a lot of these southern states, North Carolina. I spent some time in South Carolina and, some of the states in the Midwest. And I prefer simpler people who are, and I don't find people from the South any stupider. They're slower, the way they talk, right? And so it isn't that she's from the South. I think she's from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's that she's just a loudmouth hoe, right? Just a stupid loudmouth, aggressive, pointing, a finger at everyone else and 3 fingers pointing at her. She's divisive, and she's just a moron. Now compare her to that little girl who was in that video clip earlier with Hassan Minhaj. That's some sort of gifted child who's intelligent and can articulate the points in a way. She's not being disrespectful. She's not doing something that, will trigger other people, right? She's just, saying things in a way she's just on a different level of consciousness than this congresswoman, right? And a lot of these Republican dopes, they're a nightmare. And you guys are wrecking something that we built. The rest of us, had been here for a while before you guys got here. And, we're not into it. And we can see what they're doing and how you're being used. And we can see how it's a weapon against us and just free expression. And you don't learn. And you can't, you don't listen to anybody. And you keep on, getting your feelings hurt and being a dope about it. And so that's why there's a reaction here to the call of freedom, sound of freedom. Because it's Marjorie Taylor Greene and the rest of you dopes that don't know when to keep your mouth shut or just, see that you're being worked or played. You guys get completely owned all the time by the agencies that you hate. The deep state owns you. They work you, they trigger you, they set you out, they use you as an asset, and they're laughing at you and mocking you, and you guys keep on going back for more. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Like, you just suck that way. Like, it's just absolutely sucky. And so that's what's happened to the truth community. You guys destroyed it. And you just don't know when to quit. You don't know when to keep your mouth shut. You don't know when to, just sit back and listen instead of talking. You just keep on running your mouths. And again, I'm not, there's not many Qbies that come to my channel anymore, people who want to admit they're Qbies, but it's just the Sound of Freedom is just an extension of the Q operation. They target you. They know how to target you. They know how to get you all worked up. They know that you'll fall for it every time. And they did it, to you with Trump, and they did it with you in the big event in January. They did it with you the 2020 election. They did it to you with Epstein. They're doing it now again with you, Call of Freedom. And you just never learn. You just never get it. You don't see that you're being played and just need to sit back and, watch the thing play out. Again, how many times are you going to fall for something? The other part that ties into this is the biblical quote, right? That's pervy behavior. That there was a king that's a part of your religious structure, and David, who's a big part of your Bible, a hero in your Bible, and they were taking the foreskins off of people they murdered and, were in war with. They undressed the guys. They grabbed their Johnsons, the dead soldiers' Johnsons, and they cut off the tip of their, think about what they did. And David was such a stand-up guy. He only was supposed to get 100, but he went and got 200 because, he got his freak on, right? And there's stuff like that in your Bible all over the place. There's ritualistic sacrifices, God saying, the way God is portrayed in the Old Testament sucks. It's a bad book. It's not about God. The God that they present is a narcissistic demon, the God that they were worshiping. That'll tell you everything you know about, where that came from. They're not worshiping God. They're worshiping a demon. And so that's, the Judeo-Christian religion is half of Jesus's writings and half of the previous, work there. And the God is narcissistic. He's wrathful. He's petty. He's got a big ego. He gets butthurt all the time. And he's, a liar, deceiver. And to appease him, there's animal sacrifices and human sacrifices and wars and petty things, a petty God. And it shouldn't, that's not a good book. That's blasphemous. It's not how God is. And so that's a big part of this thing. You have to realize your Bible isn't as great as you think it is. That, all you Christians, that there's problems there and things that they edited out, right? Good things they edited out and bad things they edited out. But like just this foreskin thing is one of many weird behaviors. You can say, well, it's the Bible, it's holy. I don't know. It's the word of God, so it must. No, it's not. It's pervy. It's got pedo stuff in it, right? It's creepy. A lot of creepy behaviors in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament. And the New Testament is just a good spiritual book. Good religious book, not spiritual. There's good teachings by Jesus, but they dumbed those teachings down. They removed Jesus's teachings. They edited them out. They warped them. They said things that aren't true. And that's a big part of the problem as well. That your Christian religion, although it's got great things in it, and Jesus was a great man, Jesus was a saintly person who did wonderful things, he isn't what the religion told you he was, and the religion itself is limited, and it's not, it doesn't take you very far in terms of spiritual growth, and its promise of hell and heaven are inaccurate because there's past lives and future lives, all of which Jesus believed in. And some of his scrub teachings in the Hammadi texts and some of these things, right? Some of these other, they found Jesus' teachings, Mary Magdalene stuff, that Jesus, in other places, it's clear that he believed in past lives. And they took that out of the Bible because, having control over your eternal soul, whether you're going to hell or heaven, and Jesus is the only gateway into heaven, is a huge plus for a religion. So they got you. They got you. They own you. And that's a part of this thing. So there's the Christian aspect of this thing. You guys have to confront the limitations of your religion and the harm that your religion has done, the crusades, the persecution of people, the queens, the royal church that said that the queen was God's representative, and manifest destiny, and these other things that allowed the abuse of native peoples and the enslavement of black peoples because Christians were somehow superior, and you were doing these people a favor by erasing and wiping out their historical and their spiritual beliefs and forcing your religion on them because you were saving them from eternal hell, which you weren't, because your religion is BS. That part of your religion is complete horseshit, and you just, And so when these missionaries, so-called missionaries, came in and they beat kids in Ireland so that they would speak English instead of their native Gaelic language and things like that. I mean, all the abuse and the sexual abuse and all the harassment, just because you thought you were saving these souls from eternal damnation, which is just BS. And it was an excuse you used the excuse the religion and these Christian countries used to inflict pain and suffering on all these indigenous people and other people, looking at them as savages and things. And now that's come full circle with the woke consciousness that has gone the other way, and all the other things. These so-called marginalized groups are now have the power, and it's, and you're not liking it because it's turned on that, its access, right? It's come full circle. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. This kind of thing. That's what's happened. It's flipped. It's inverted now. And you think, well, it was better when we were on top. Sure it was, but you were bad people. Like you were hurting people, European people, English people, people that were colonizers were hurting people based in your faulty belief that you were saving them for eternal hell by exploiting them and turning them into slaves and killing them and taking their land and, doing whatever, making them erase their culture and their beliefs and things and imposing your beliefs on them. That was wrong. And that's a big part of this, and this is a big part of the QB movement, until you come to terms with it, that you guys are a bunch of foreskin cutters. Like you want to, go after the so-called Hollywood elite. But what about David out there murdering people and cutting off the corpses' foreskins and just all the other crap like that that's in the Bible? There's some freaks in there. It's a freakish behavior. God is a little bitch in the Old Testament, and, it's just a bad book. It's blasphemy. It's not true spirituality. It's not true connection to God. A lot of it's manipulation, and it's been warped. Jesus' teachings, the good stuff. And so, like, your belief system is, has been warped in this way. And it's time to grow up and evolve out of it, right? Realize that you've been duped for generations. You've been indoctrinated into something that's failed. And, you're going to keep on falling for these things. That's fine. But stay the F away from me and my channel. Like this is not for dopes. You have plenty of places, plenty of channels, plenty of, places you can go and do your dopery. And just, stay away from me. I don't want you here. Like, you either get it or you don't. Like, you either rise up to it or you don't. Like, that's, there's plenty of places for you to go. But don't ride the fence realizing that I have things to offer here, but you're not willing to make that leap and evolve past your own personal limitations. And, happy Sunday. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.